Olá pessoal do canal, tudo bem com vocês? Eu espero que sim. Começando hoje um novo projeto para o canal, The Stanley Parable. Um jogo muito divertido, espero que vocês gostem, ele é bem conceitual. E lá vamos nós.
E lá vamos nós?
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
E aqui estamos, Stanley Parable. Nós temos essa voz misteriosa nos dando instruções. Nós podemos seguir elas, não seguir elas, fazer completamente o oposto. Vocês vão ver conforme o jogo.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Vamos à sala de reuniões, então. Onde fica a sala de reuniões? Eu não faço a menor ideia. Mas vamos seguindo.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ok, porta à esquerda. Nessa primeira vez vamos fazer tudo que a voz mandar. E depois a gente vai variando.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Tá. Vamos subir então. A voz mandou
Coming
subir.
to a staircase,
Subiremos.
Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
O escritório do chefe, ok. Aqui é o banheiro, não tá aberto. Cachorro.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from
painel
him.
com código.
And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Ok. Código que abriu uma passagem secreta. Esse jogo é bem esquisito, mas é divertido. Elevador.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Ok. O escritório do chefe tinha uma passagem secreta para um lugar muito estranho.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Cachorro! Mind Control Facility. Papel.
The
Eita.
lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Ok, por enquanto só podemos seguir.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers, the lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Peraí, deixa eu só testar uma coisa. Ah, saco. Não dá pra jogar o jogo no controle, dá bugs. Aqui, abriu a passarela. E... elevador?
This mind
elevador.
control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the
manipulação,
proof, the heart
trabalho.
of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Tá, e aí, o que eu faço? Não faço a menor ideia. Mind Control Zero, await input.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Tá bom. Bora botar um fim nisso tudo. E aí?
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt
Tá,
the cool
aparentemente esse é o
breeze
final
upon
mais
his
simples do
skin,
jogo.
the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Esse é o final mais básico do jogo. Se libertando da máquina de controle. Zero o jogo. Mas não é o único final. Ainda temos muitas opções a serem exploradas. E vamos recomeçar da nossa sala, de onde começamos.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Vamos fazer o que a voz manda, mas só por enquanto. A graça do jogo é explorar opções diferentes. Tá, eu vou continuar indo para a porta da esquerda, mas em vez de subir eu vou descer para ver o que acontece.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
E aqui vamos desobedecer a voz pela primeira vez.
Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Não, vou subir, eu vou descer. Aí cada opção, cada escolha vai levando por caminhos e finais diferentes.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! He yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun.
Oh, look.
And Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float amid the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Tá. Nada mudou ainda.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss, I have an office, I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real, I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Ah, ok. E o que eu
This
faço?
is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Ué.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Esse final faz a gente pensar. Será que a sanidade é sã? Será que o normal é normal? Será que o louco é tão louco quanto a gente acha? Será que eu tô ficando louco por pensar essas coisas? Ou será que eu só tô quebrando a parede da Matrix?
All of his co-workers were... Wait, no. This isn't the right office, is it? Is this Stanley's office?
Tá. Voltamos do começo. Oportunidades de fazer novas escolhas.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Tá.
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Tá, vamos continuar.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Mas vocês já entenderam a loucura desse jogo, né? Tá, vou à esquerda, velho.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Nope. Vou descer. São várias variações, dá pra fazer bastante escolha
want
nesse
to go
jogo.
back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left.
Eu quero mesmo ir pra esquerda? Ou só vou porque a voz tá me falando? Eu só vou porque eu não tenho outro caminho também.
Oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake.
Ô filha da puta.
No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please? Now, let's see, we went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
Tá, né? Já que ele decidiu que eu não posso nem ir pela esquerda nem pela direita. Eu vou pra frente.
No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
Ah, tá. A voz viu que eu fudi o roteiro e me voltou pro começo.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
E vamos continuar desobedecendo.
When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
Nossa, agora temos várias opções. Unite, escolhido foi você. Eu não sei pra onde eu estou indo, eu já me perdi completamente.
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over
Tá,
again.
já tô tão perdido que eu não sei onde eu tô indo, se eu tô indo, se eu tô voltando.
Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
Ah, coloquei. Cá estamos. O roteiro tá tão bagunçado que nem o narrador sabe o que fazer.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Tá, começamos de novo. O narrador já tá ficando confuso. E eu também.
Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
As coisas estão mudando drasticamente.
Aha! I knew we'd miss something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait, never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
Ok, agora tá ficando... Caralho. Cagaram aqui.
Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job.
É, eu venci o quê?
No, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time, I have to restart.
De novo.
All right,
The Stanley
I've got a
Parable
solution.
Adventure Line.
This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line. Just follow the line. How simple is that?
Tá, vamos seguir a linha pra ver o que acontece.
You see? The line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation
ao
of the
pé da
nature
letra
of
a
life
linha.
itself? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
Um jogo ainda é um jogo
Cut
se
the
você
music,
estiver
go
só
back and look at that fern.
seguindo uma linha.
Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell? Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart.
E lá vamos nós de novo. Eu me pergunto se esse jogo vai pra algum lugar.
Stanley, I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
Tá, vamos lá então. Eu não gosto muito de obedecer a voz.
This is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story
pronto, agora
to
eu tô
be?
andando em
Go
círculo.
wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it.
Meu Deus, o que tá acontecendo?
Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine.
Tá. Voltei pra andar em círculo, parabéns. É, não tem outra opção. Mas eu não faço ideia pra onde essa linha vai me levar. Deixa a linha me levar. Linha leva eu. Deixa a linha me levar. A linha sumiu, foda-se.
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a
Por que eu deveria
reverse
ficar andando em
door
círculos? Eu
that
não sei,
leads
mas eu vou
here.
andar.
And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
Tá, ele falou pra ir da direita, mas eu queria ir da esquerda. Saco.
Oh, hold up, what's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times? That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really? No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer stopped. Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen?
Realmente eu estou confuso, não sei o que dizer.
So, okay.
As portas trancadas.
I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story. Wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey. Though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you do happen to have a...
E o que aconteceu? O jogo reiniciou por algum motivo. Tá, vamos fazer mais uma run e aí a gente para.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Tá, tem mais um final que eu quero fazer antes de encerrar o vídeo.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find... Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Escritório do chefe.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Ai, meu saco! Era só o que faltava, o narrador é sentimental. Será que tem mais alguma coisa nessa sala?
And rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Passagem secreta. Estamos voltando para o primeiro final. Mas eu vou fazer uma variação dele. Dessa vez, ao invés de desligar o sistema, eu vou ligar o sistema.
Quero ver o que acontece. Door that read Mind Control Facility.
Escape.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Uma morte violenta. Não acredito em você, narrador.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Nope.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Não acredito em você, narrador. Cheguei em algum lugar.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Ai, merda.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Ué? Acho que eu ia ser amassado.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Caramba. Onde é que eu tô? Créditos. Parece o céu, ou o inferno, ou o purgatório. Uma sala de desenvolvimento, sei lá. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. O que acontece? Ah, tá. O contador reseta. Talvez sejam amostras de finais diferentes. Deve ter alguma coisa importante aqui, com certeza. E o jogo crashou. Travou. Infelizmente o jogo crashou e o vídeo vai ficando por aqui. Espero que vocês estejam gostando. No próximo vídeo a gente tenta ver mais finais, mais possibilidades. Torcendo pro jogo não crashar. Mas comentem o que vocês estão achando do jogo até agora. Estão gostando? É uma parada interessante. Se inscreve, compartilha com os amigos e até mais.
Ainda bem. Até um outro dia.